morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning and happy Wednesday. I'm Ryan Christ, and this is,
Liz Williams.
and we are here to show you guys all the goodies about Highland Park. So this is our new drapery and ribbon shade collection, which we launched about a year ago, and wanted to really kind of spend some time and deep dive on how you can use this program or collection for your business, whether or not you already sell ribbons or draperies. This is designed to be a program that really anyone can leverage. Before we jump in, wanted to do a couple household items. So again, please keep your mics and your cameras off, just so any delay in transmission doesn't happen. And also, if you do have questions, I encourage you to use the chat window, and that way, about halfway through, I'll answer those questions that have come up, and then again from there, we'll do questions at the end. So, all right, guys. I'm going to start to share the a screen, and we will get going here. So, one second. Let's see here. Desktop, and then we'll go back to. All right. All right, Liz. So, again, I'm a Ryan Christ, and this is Liz Williams. So, I lead the sales and marketing team here at Texton, and you manage our soft goods, right?
Yes, and I'm the drapery expert.
Awesome. So, for this webinar, just wanted to touch base on what is Highland Park, where and how this fits into the market, how you can use this collection. So whether you are a dealer, a retailer, maybe you currently have a drapery workroom yourself, and want to have an easy to use offering that isn't so custom, and maybe you're an AV integrator or something like that. Anyone here can use this book. Also touch base on essential knowledge for ribbon shades, and then drapery, which is really a beast of its own. And we're so fortunate to have Liz here to kind of walk us through that. We've got some easy to use resources for you, and also we'll do about 5 or 10 minutes of a question and answer at the end. So again, any questions, put them in the chat window. I'll be monitoring them as we go along, and we will rock and roll from there. So let me pull up the chat window just so I have it here on the side. And so now let's go ahead and meet Liz. So Liz, you joined, or you've been actually with Texton now for eons, but
yes,
give us your
many
your
years.
background.
I started as a design assistant, and that is really when I became aware of Texton and became a Texton customer,
Right.
And then venturing out on my own, and eventually becoming a part of the Texton family in many ways.
In many ways, and those are all good ways, right?
All very good, all very good. So I do have plenty of experience with custom draperies, and I'm here to help and assist in any way I can to get you guys comfortable selling draperies and Roman shades.
Awesome. Yeah, so she works directly with customer service, and also with many of our dealers to really, truly handhold them through that process. So,
Yes.
because it can be a challenging, more so managing the client's expectations of what this looks like coming out of the box and how things should transform over time, right?
Yeah, and the one thing about draperies is it differs from other window coverings. Yeah. If you're doing an inside mount, Roman shade, roller shade, mini blind, honeycomb, anything like that, it's pretty exact how you measure. With draperies, there's so many different ways to do it. Many are right. There's probably the only wrong way is if it really is too small or not wide enough. So anyways, there's more ways than one to do the draperies. And so I'm available to help you figure out the best way for your client.
Awesome. So Um, if you recall, in the past, we've had a couple a drapery and urban shade collections, and as Texton has done since 1941, we always listen to the input and the feedback from our customers. And one of the key things was, you know, you all were looking for a premium quality product with a competitive price. So something that wasn't as high, high level and bespoke and price rich as a workroom, but not a run of the mill product from say Target and Walmart and those guys. So we knew that that need was out there. The other thing too is, we understand that many of your clients, if they're coming to you for a custom window treatment, they're more than likely wanting something that is very unique, very fashion forward, right? And so we worked to get you this collection. Also have a wide array of control options, right? So not just your quarter chain, but a very nice premium cordless, which we're going to introduce today. Some of these twin pull mechanisms, and also some nice motorization that can actually integrate into these higher level home automation systems and things like that. So
Yes, and
yeah.
I know motorized has been around for many years now, but it is really this year with some of the restrictions on the cords and stuff like that, that the motorization I think is really becoming more common and more people are aware of it and want it, and a little bit more affordable than what it has been in the past.
Exactly. Short lead times. We know that we currently sell products that that range from say 6 days to 10 days and up to 3 weeks. Historically, ribbon shades and drapery can go up to 2 months, 3 months, just depending on the scope, right?
Yeah, sometimes longer. Yeah, I've heard that a couple of people in the field have said to me that Roman shades and draperies that they're being quoted like 12,
Wow.
16 weeks. And not only that, a lot of the fabric companies, they're not keeping in stock all of the fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, it could be a month or 2 months for the fabric, and then add that to the 12 to 16 months, and you're looking at 6 months for a custom Roman shade or drapery workroom.
Yeah.
So we can blow that out of the water.
Yeah. So I think it's what 3 weeks plus shipping, and it ships pretty quick from
Yes.
yeah. So
Yep.
easy to transport and showcase. So we know that a typical workroom, if they have to go on location, you're bringing 5, 6, 10 fabric decks, and they're getting messy and they're all over the place. It's hard to organize and color coordinate all of these things. We know that if you bring them into your showroom, you've got an entire library dedicated to this. So how can we help that sales process for someone that doesn't want such a complicated product? So took all these really pain points into consideration, and we really have come out with Highland Park. So essentially, it's one book just like this, about the same size as a color, and it's got over 300 designs and fabrics to choose from. We're working with a company that they designed this in the UK, so we know that the right there it's very fashion forward. But the cool thing is that it's actually manufactured in Dubai.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've ever been to Dubai, parts of the Middle East, it's a very textile driven environment. So there's a lot of hand and craft work that goes into making these textiles and the weaves and things like that. So we know right there that we're getting a very solid product as opposed to others.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the quality of the Roman shades and the drapes and the fabrics. There are some basic fabrics that come in a lot of different colors, like a kind of like a linen look that's really popular now. But there's also some beautiful prints and textures and everything like that. The colorways are really nice, and there's different formal all the way to casual. So it's a really good collection that I've shown it to some other people in the fabric industry, not necessarily in home fabric, but they were just going crazy over the beautiful fabrics and designs. So
Yeah.
that was nice to hear.
It is, yeah. And premium quality, but also this is exclusive to Texton.
Yes.
No one else in the country has this collection. You may or may not see a couple of fabrics that are duplicated, because anyone could buy fabrics. But as far as the collection, this is a Texton exclusive product, and we're thrilled to have it here.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, since we launched this about 1 year ago, actually. And we've received quite a bit of great feedback. Mostly detailing to the quality, the fit and finish, and the process, right? And that's really what we wanted to go after, was have a premium product that is easy to sell, easy to understand, and makes you all successful.
Yes.
So, yep. So a lot of you have asked, as you sold this and inquired about it, how do I use this in the business? Where does this fit into this whole gamut of custom shades and draperies and things like that? So when you look at this, so you've got your big box retailers, right? So these are like your Targets, your Walmarts, and even your Amazons. They have a very small gamut of fabric, right? But usually no custom sizes, right?
Right. Usually they'll have certain lengths that are common and that can be used on common windows. But most of the widths of the draperies are one width fabric. Well, you have 100-inch wide window and you're going to have multiple panels that aren't sewn together. And so that kind of makes it look kind of cheap. Where Highland Park, you can suggest Highland Park and, sure, we can make panels up to, I think, 200 inches. Yeah. So that's per panel. So it's a great product.
Yeah. Prior to me being at Texton, I actually purchased a drape from Target because they matched our sofa and this and that for our little theater upstairs. And they looked okay, but I had no knowledge of draperies.
Right.
And so I come here like, oh my word, these are terrible. And now I'm totally embarrassed that I had those in my house. So, and so on the other gamut, you've got your custom workroom, right? So you've got an expansive fabric collection. As I walked into some of these showrooms, every wall from floor to ceiling is covered in fabric samples, which is incredible. Custom sizes galore. You usually have very progressive designs and whatnot, and things that are timeless. But you have a premium quality, but you also have that premium price, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also the premium lead time.
Yeah. And
there's
nothing wrong with that. Like there's always a place for that, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but a lot of times, we're asked the question, how can I be more competitive? How can I, get more sales in addition to what I'm doing? And so this is that next best thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So, here in the past 2 years, there have been a lot of really nice e-commerce sites come on board, like Alva, 2 Pages, all of those folks. And, they do have a pretty good quality product, right? Mm-hmm. But they have, it's a very focused fabric collection.
Yeah.
Taupe and taupe, right?
Right.
They do some custom sizes, some drapery options or designer options, and it's good quality. Mm-hmm. And it'll work for most folks, but I think there's some to be desired with that, and so that's kind of where people have gotten frustrated. So when you look at Highland Park, here's kind of how this fits. So like the other folks, or like a custom workroom, but not to that scale, we have a very large focused fabric collection. So over 300 designs and colors, custom sizes like a drapery workroom does, progressive designs. This collection. So worked with some of the leading designers throughout the world that work with textiles. So we're pumped about it. This is a true workroom level quality product. I feel like even the Roman shade, this is a true wooden headboard and a top rail to where it does have that premium product.
Well, and also the back of the Roman shade. A lot of people don't think of that. It is seen from the outside. But I've seen some Roman shades that come from a custom workroom, and you're like, "Ooh, what did they do here?" Excuse me. So the Roman shades, that even the workmanship from the back looks really nice, and it's all consistent.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and so lead times are right around 3 to 4 weeks shipped.
Hmm.
And sometimes faster, just depending on the spec.
Yeah,
But most all this is a pretty competitively priced product, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then there's only been maybe once that the fabric was out of stock,
yeah,
but it was like a week. It wasn't months like you're seeing in the industry.
exactly.
So they do try to keep pretty good stock on all of the fabric, so that doesn't cut into the lead time.
Yeah, and if you're uh, ever curious about lead times and back orders and stock, make sure that you're signed up to our weekly email that goes out every Monday, which has all the lead times for our products, lists all the versions of the current versions of our product guides, and also will tell you any lead times or back orders and discontinuations on materials. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yep.
um, so let's get into Roman shades. So um, again, if you have any questions during this, feel free to drop them in the chat window. I am monitoring them, and I would love to hear from you all. Um, so Liz, with our room shades, we offer the classic, the flat, and the hobbled, right?
Yes. Yep.
Which one have you seen be our most popular since we've launched it?
I'm going to say the classic
Yeah.
pleat. It's just a nice, clean look.
Mhm.
It does have the batons, if that's not the correct word, the dowels.
Yes.
At every line there that you can see on the screen. It's just a really, really well made product, and it looks great in solid fabrics as well as print fabrics.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the flat Roman, can go well in modern homes, and then your hobbled is more of your traditional
Yeah.
shade.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
The one thing about the hobbled, it looks great in solid
mhm.
fabrics and textures. It's if there's a big, heavy print
Oh,
repeat
right.
that needs to be considered. It's not that it's going to look bad. Sometimes the prints don't line up, so it's just kind of letting the customer be aware of things like that. But the hobbled shade is beautiful as well in a more traditional setting.
Yeah. Okay, so for design options, so we have your balance, we have a returns, but also there's two ways to stack your Roman shade. So Liz, what is the main difference between a Roman stack and a condensed stack shade?
So I would say probably 90% of the time, I think Roman stack is going to be the best. It's a traditional stack on a Roman shade where you can see in the picture where it's, I'm going to say, kind of waterfalled. Each level is a little bit lower, where the condensed stack is all further up behind the valance. So it's shorter. The one thing about the condensed stack is, if that fabric has to go somewhere, so it comes, it's wider at the valance, and if it's a really long window, it can cause that valance to kick out a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if it's, yeah, it has its applications, but I would say the majority of the time, I think Roman stack is going to be the one that you
I
want.
agree. Yeah. Corinne
Mhm.
mentioned or asked, do you plan on offering Roman balances at some point? So I know with our manufacturing partner, they only have a certain set of balances that they offer, but I guess it doesn't have to ask, right?
Well, so there are balances available for the three different types of Roman shades. So I guess I'm kind of confused, and Corinne, I can reach out to you later on about exactly what you're wanting. But yes, we can do balances on the Roman shades.
All right. So, outlining. So, this is what's offered here is these are premium liners. So, Liz, so we have everything from your ivories to your whites, your satins, things like that. These are very high quality feels, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The Roman shades come standard with the classic or the premium lining.
Right.
So since there's no upcharge, I would always go with the premium lining. It just makes the fabric lay a little bit nicer and makes it feel like a higher quality product. And
I agree.
let me go back to Corinne's question real quick. She said where they do not go up and down, but have 3 layers of Roman for the Roman balances. And Corinne, we can do that. It's just how you order it.
Okay.
And so I'll reach out to you to tell you how to do that. And then maybe I'll have Ryan put it on an email if anybody else is interested in that.
Perfect. All right. So as far as control, so your traditional continuous chain, which is WCMA compliant. We have the twin pull. So you have 2 chains, one on the front, one on the back. You pull down to go down, you pull down to go back up.
Yeah.
As easy as that, right?
Yeah. And it's a pull to get to the...
It's a pumping action.
Yes. To get to the length that you want.
We are coming out with a new cordless option 1 year after launching this. So we're calling this Cordless Plus for Roman shades, and it essentially acts just as a zero gravity Cordless Plus shade. And it will be compatible for both waterfall and shades with a balance.
That's great. Cordless is just the way to go, unless it's a really tall window that you can't reach. But the operating systems on the cordless have been improved so much. It's just not the ones that pull down and...
Yeah, exactly. And then also motorization. So on this product, we actually partnered with Cooley's and their motion product. And so this is a very nice motorization product. It's very, very quiet. Super easy to set limits and then hand them off to the customer's phone or hub. We love it. Our installers love it. Those that have installed this product, I love it. So it also works very, very well with things like Apple HomeKit and Google and things like that. So definitely take a look at that. So and just so you know, you can order a hand sample of for Roman shades, and so it can be a chain pull, a twin cordless, or a motorized. So just let us know that when you place that order, and they are discounted too. So,
okay, great.
Yeah, and if you have a Shade Perks and the funds with a Shade Perks, they can be used towards a hand sample for Highland Park.
And then they can select their fabric and all of the good options that you want for a hand sample.
Yep. So pricing, it's pretty darn easy, I would think, right? Just like any other shade. So as always, Texton only publishes MSRP pricing, and then based upon your certain pricing with Texton, there is a discount from that. So as Liz mentioned, all of our Roman shades are based on the classic pleat stitching. They have the control or the clutch control, and then your choice of an online shade, classic or a premium light filter and liner. So again, across the top is your width, and going down to the left is your height. In the matrix, find where those meet, and there's your price. With regards to surcharges, so for a cordless shade, there's only $116 surcharge per shade. The twin pull is $145, but we feel there's a lot of folks right now that use the twin pull. I think the cordless is going to be by far the most popular. So for a flat Roman, since there is a stab stitch on it, it is just a 5% increase. For a hobbled, it's just a 10% increase, things like that.
Yeah, so. And let me tell you, the flat Roman shade, the stab stitch, since it doesn't have the dowels sewed in, the dowels are still there on the back, but there's a little stitch called a stab stitch over each section. So that's what the stab stitch is.
Yeah. Margaret has a question. When blackout liner is used, can you see the pinholes through the liner?
Possibly on the flat Roman shades. I don't think on the classic pleat or the hobbled. So that's always something to be aware of when you're doing the blackout liner.
Sure. All right. Quick tips. So, as Liz mentioned, all flat Roman shades are stab stitched, and that's really to hide the appearance of the stitching and really kind of ease the stacking. And so with that, flat Roman shades are not available without stab stitching.
Yeah, and for that, I think the flat Roman shades always look better with the textured fabric or a print. Definitely not just a smooth white cotton fabric, because then you're going to see all of that stab stitching, and it is what it is.
Right.
But I would prefer it in a pattern or a textured fabric.
Yeah. And just so these shades have traveled halfway across the globe, right? When you get them, they're going to need a dressing. And so we encourage you to have just a handheld steamer on site. And then in the same regards, make sure you keep those shades up for a few days, so then the memory on the pleats and whatnot can actually get created. And it's not look like a bed sheet.
Yeah.
Really
and also from experience, I've been on some job sites when the Roman shades as well as draperies have been installed. And when we say dressing, it's really been minimal and nothing that a hand steamer won't take out, just a few wrinkles here and there. It doesn't come wadded up in a ball. It's packaged very neat and all of that. So don't let that scare you off.
Yep. Chrissy asks, is there danger in doing a classic pleat with a pattern, or do they line the pattern up?
No, the pattern is lined up, so there's no problem there. It's with the hobbled, just how it's made. The prints can kind of be goofy. I did one as a sample in the showroom here just to show that. And I don't have it handy right now, but it was birds and stuff like that. And so some of the birds had their heads cut off, and I mean, it didn't look stupid, but
it looked great.
But it's kind of client preference. If as long as they know what they're going to get and approve that, then it was still pretty. It wasn't like, oh, what did you do? So anyways, just something to be aware
of. Susan asks, when will the cordless plus be available? So I would say early in the new year, so the first few weeks. Just they're fine tuning a part on the bottom for it to kind of, there's a micro adjustments. But other than that, it's ready to go. So early in the new year is my best guess. Say mid January. That's what I would say, mid month, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so drapery. So drapery, there's no wrong way to order it, but it can be done incorrectly, right?
Correct.
And it really comes down to fullness, the length, all sorts of expectations, right? Because in the past, or like when someone goes and orders a drapery through one of the big box retailers or something, or even online, they're thinking, okay, here's my overall width, and those companies kind of do it for them. It's very feed down, right?
I think the one thing about draperies is that you have the width of your window, and then how much space do you have on the window? Because if you order the same width as the window, well, then that's all it's going to cover,
right?
And it can make the window look smaller, and with the fabric stacked, I mean, it really reduces the amount of the window that you see. Where if you've got a bunch of space on either side of the window, we make that larger.
Right.
So we make the pole length longer. So the extra fabric stacks on the side of the window, and you have the whole expanse of the window. I like it to overlap the window a couple of inches. And in case there's some cases that have, sorry, my alarm is going off. In some cases, there's not a lot of room, and then you have to deal with it. So anyways, I think the one incorrect way to do it is hang it just an inch above the window and the exact width of the window.
Right. We've seen those. Someone trying to be Instagram famous.
Yeah.
Right? This not going to work. So in this collection, so we have everything from a French pleat, a ripple fold, and a grommet. In the French pleat section, so we have the double French pleat and a triple. You have 4 and 6 inch height available on the pleat. And then for your fullness options, 200 and 230%. Ripple fold, which is one of my favorites. So it's interesting. So your fullness here is actually scaled differently than it would be on the French pleat. So why is it on the Ripple fold that they would do 80, 120, 80, 100, 120 versus 200 or 230?
Well, first of all, the double French pleat is going to give you 200% fullness.
Yeah.
And the triple French pleat will give you 230% fullness. On the ripple fold, I don't know why they say 80% rather than 180%. The 100% is going to be, the fabric is doubled, at 200%. Yeah. If you have a window that's 100 inches wide, you're going to, once you stretch that fabric out, it's going to be 200 inches wide.
Exactly.
And then the 120% technically is 220%. It's just fullness, and how you can see on the little drawing of all of the squiggles,
right,
that the 120%, there's going to be more fabric and more squiggles.
It'll look more condensed, right?
Yes,
but
yes,
it also looks really, very, very nice. So, and then your grommets. So, it's offered in a 2 inch and inch and a half grommet. Your fullness is always going to be 170%. And then we have your standard grommet colors being silver, gold, antique, and gunmetal. So
yeah, and on the grommet, the fullness option at 170%, that fullness is already figured out for you. So if you have a window that is 100 inches again, because it's easy to use, you're going to get a fabric that is 170 inches wide versus just 100 inches that it's not going to look like a flat sheet hung up on the window. Grommets are probably the hardest to use if you're opening and closing a window, or opening and closing the drapes. So the grommet works a little bit better if it's a stationary panel, or if the rod isn't so high, because sometimes those grommets you just have to kind of pull gently on that. The ripple fold looks beautiful. If you've got like walls of drapes and stuff, it's just always looks very nice. And then the French pleat in both the double and triple, it's just a classic look. And the French pleat you can use in a modern setting or a traditional transitional, all of that. So
I've seen it in both, and most
it
awesome
looks beautiful.
Both, yeah. Candy has a question. So what fullness percent is the most popular on the triple French pleat?
Well, the triple French pleat is 230% fullness. So there's not.
Oh, there's not. And so I made it error.
Yes. Yeah. So the French pleat, because you've got 2 pleats, once you get the fabric pleated, it's a 200% fullness. The triple pleat, because there's 3 pleats, takes more fabric. So that's your 230% fullness. So
this is why we have Liz here, because she tells me when I make an error, and obviously I made a
minor.
nice one. So it is minor, but it's an error. So
well, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so like our Roman shades, we have lining. The main difference is that you don't have your napped lining in blackout or ivory, but we do have an inch lining, an internal lining. Right?
Yeah. So the inner lining, it's also been called bump cloth.
Okay.
So it is like a flannel, and you would use it as an inner lining with another lining behind it. Yep. So it just adds extra weight to it. Probably 20 years ago, when silk panels were really popular, they would use the inner lining just to give the silk a little bit heavier, richer look. So I wouldn't use it on a heavier fabric, but if you're wanting that look on a thinner fabric, it looks really nice. The classic lining is standard and figured in the price. I'm not really a fan of the classic. I think it's real thin.
Right.
Obviously, if you've got a client that is on really budget conscious and it makes or breaks the sale, then do the classic lining. I really prefer the premium satin lining for the light filtering. It's just a little bit heavier fabric, and I think just looks a little bit nicer, hangs a little bit nicer.
Very good. So let's get into how to order drapery. So again, this is really, there can be a lot to this, but it's not scary if you just follow the process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And don't think, I can look on these e-commerce sites for how to order and this and that, because that's not as custom as what we're doing, right?
Correct.
So follow Texton's process. Our online product guide has a lot of detail. Plus, being a Texton, you have great access to customer service and Liz to kind of help walk you through this. So let's kind of get into it. So ordering drapery the right way. So, like I say, perfect panels is the perfect fit, but it's really comes down to the art of panel width, right?
Yes.
And so, so at a high level, Liz, they need to select their style, so double or French pleat, ripple fold, things like that, right? In our product guide, we've got a finish width, say size converter that says, hey, up to X width based on this style. This is the of a panel width you have, right?
Yeah. So I've helped some dealers recently, a long window.
Yeah.
The homeowner wanted to make sure that all of the fabric stacked on the side of the window. And so there's some calculations that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we had to go like 18 or 19 inches beyond the window. I think originally we were planning 12 inches, but that would have still kept quite a bit of fabric on the side of the window. So that is what is meant by the finished width. You take the width of the window and then add whatever sides, how much you want to add on the sides. And then the return of the drape. And that is, you've got your drape facing you. And then, so there's not a gap on the side from the pole. There's the fabric that comes on the side of that, and it's attached to the wall. And then if it's a drapery that closes the overlap, where it overlaps, so you don't have this big light gap.
Yep, exactly. So you had mentioned, one of the key things that you could do wrong is order the drapery way too close to the window itself. And so Liz found this nice diagram or drawing. But kind of walk us through some of the key points that they should know when measuring and thinking about drapery.
Yeah. So this little picture here is not like a hard and set fast rule. I would say it's kind of a minimum.
Sure.
And of course, there's always instances where maybe you don't have 6 inches above the window, and then that's okay. But so generally, you want the rod. I say kind of 6 to 8 inches, maybe even more. And I think we have some other pictures of showing that. The curtain width at the minimum, each panel should be half the length of the rod. If the drapes are actually closing, I think that's just kind of common sense. Curtain length, curtains should kiss the floor, measure the distance from the top of the rod to the floor, and adjust for hanging method, whether it's grommet, pinch pleat, all of that. Yeah. There's some instances where sometimes there's a slight break on the floor where it just kind of touches the floor a little bit. And then, years back again, you wanted that full puddle.
Right. Years ago, right?
Years ago, yes. And then the rod length, again, use this as a minimum. Rod should extend 8 inches past the window on both sides. And again, there's always those unique circumstances where you have 2.5 inches. Well, then that's what you do.
Yep. So these are actually some great shots of properly installed drapes and shades and things that, for the most part, following that 6 inches above the window mark, things.
Yes.
Like
yes.
that.
So if you see this first blue picture with the Roman shades and the drapes, first of all, I think that's a really nice layered look. The drapes are just stationary. So it's there for aesthetic. It's not for controlling the light. I think the Roman shades are beautiful there. My one thing that I would have liked to see is the rod hanging a little bit higher. I don't know how tall that ceiling is, but if you hang the rod a little bit higher, it just gives the windows, it just makes the room feel a little bit taller.
It does.
And then the middle picture, again, showing the nice layered look with the woven shade and the pinch pleat draperies. And you can see they hung the drapery almost to the crown molding, not quite. And those drapes, you can see how full they are, that those actually close over the window as well. And then the last picture, the gray drapes, those are stationary. You can see how it's pulled versus the picture in the center where the pleats are tighter together. So the gray panels, that's a nice way to get a great look for a fraction of the price of not needing full windows to close over that.
Hard.
It does. And you can see on that picture there's really not a lot of space above the window. And so that kind of throws that rule of 6 to 8 inches out. But I think that one's done perfectly.
So it's subjective based on the space in the room, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, okay. So measuring for width. So, so whether you have a drapery track, like Liz mentioned, one with overlap, and then also or poles, how to factor for overlaps and returns. So if you want, feel free to screenshot this slide. This is also in our product guide, but this could be a great reference for you as well. Liz, can you kind of walk us through these three scenarios, and then what to think about for overlaps and returns?
Yeah. So picture one would be the drapery track or just a rod. Again, like I've said before, measure the width of the window and then the extra space on the side. And that is going to be your pole length that you order. Picture two, the drapery track with overlap. Typical overlap is, I believe, 2 inches on either side. So that's a total of 4 inches. Right. And then picture three, let's see, that is showing the finial. So that's one thing to be aware of. If you're maxing out your space, if you're going to have finials, you need to take that space into account.
Exactly. Yeah.
And shrink the pole from that. Once we get into the drapery order form, I'll show you this part, but let's see, overlaps and returns. First, measure the bracket to bracket width of your window. Add the overlap on pleated panels. There's no overlap on grommets. And if you have a pair of panels, it's 4 inches because you've got 2 inches on either panel. If it's a single panel, it's 2 inches, and stationary panels, they're not going to overlap. So 0 inches. And then the returns, whether you want no return, a 3-inch or 6-inch return. With this program, we are able to do custom returns. So in our computer system, I think 0, 3, or 6 are the options. But in notes, customer service can always put whatever return you want. So if you want a 5 1/4 inch return, you can do that. If you want an 11-inch return, you can do that. It just needs to be noted in notes when ordering. And also remember to include the returns and the overlaps when you order it. That's part of the finished width.
Right. Yes.
So that's the main thing to know, is that overlaps and returns are included in the finished width.
Yes. Corinne asked, what is a return?
So just like on roller shades or Roman shades, if this is the front of your drape or roller shade, when it comes against the wall, there's this return.
Because it returns to the wall.
It returns to the wall. And so you have your drapery rod that sits out here, and then the fabric that wraps around and goes to the wall is the return.
Yep.
So
it's just an old English architectural term, I think, right?
Yeah.
So
and the return size will be determined by the hardware that you use, whatever that bracket is. If you have an outside mount shade or some other architectural thing in the way, you may need to use an extended bracket. And so with the extended bracket, it's going to hold the drapes away from the window further,
Right.
and therefore you'll need a larger return.
Yep. Okay, so finding the correct width based on fullness. So as we mentioned, for each of the heading specifications, you have your different amounts of a fullness. So this is this chart once again is in our product guide, but this is a great time to explain how this works. And so let's when we say one panel width and it can cover between 21 and 27 inches, things like that, kind of explain the again, the logic behind that and then how to use this.
Yeah. So the majority of fabric for drapes and upholstery and stuff like that comes about 54 inches, sometimes give or take a couple of inches. But if you have the roll of fabric that's 54 inches, that is going to be considered one width.
Right. Okay.
And so on the double pinch pleat, that fabric is going to be, once it's pleated, it's going to be half of that. So again, if you have 54 inches, right, you're going to be able to get a panel that is 27 inches wide. If you take that same 54-inch fabric, because the triple French pleat is 230%, you're going to have less. Yeah. So that same with the fabric, on the chart, you can see it's going to cover 21 inches. The grommet heading, that with the fabric is going to cover 31 inches. And then the ripple fold, again, the 80% fullness is going to cover up to 21.5 inches. The 100% fullness drops it down to 17.5. And then the 120% makes it 15.25 inches. So that is, the width is really the key to figuring out the price on all of this. If you're wanting a grommet drape for a 100-inch window, again, you can see going over on the grommet heading, find your 100 inches. And so we're going to be in the column that says 2 widths pair or 4 widths panel. And that goes up to 133 inches. So that is going to be your pricing category for a grommet. If you want to do can you switch back one more? Yep. Let me just show you. If you're going to do a 120% ripple fold, you see it's going to take more fabric for a 100-inch window. And so you're going to go up to the next pricing category that says 2.5 widths pair or 5 widths per panel. And you're just going to follow all of that down for pricing. Yeah. So let's look at the grommet heading for the 2 widths pair or 4 widths panel.
Yep. So as far as the pricing, so in the product guide, so every pricing page is laid out like this. So on the top, you always have, here's the fullness.
Yes.
To order. Then find your price based on the fullness, and then the last grid is the heading surcharge.
Yes, and there's going to be 5 different pages for the price grids. Yes. On Group A fabrics is this page, Group B fabric is the next page, and so on. So, like, locate your drapery type, step 1. We're going to go over to the 2 widths pair or 4 widths panel and drop down to the grommet heading. I'm sorry. Yes, that's up to 133 inches. And then the material pricing, let's say it's 100 inches by 90 inches. Follow that same gray column under the 2 widths pair. 90 inches is $18.84. And again, remember, this is all MSRP. And then the heading surcharge, we're doing the grommet. Let's do the large grommet. And then we add $186. And then there's another grid just like this for the lining. And we're going to use plastic lining, so there's no other extra charge.
Exactly.
So there's your price. Easy peasy.
We try to make it like that. So, you got your price groups A through E.
Yep.
So, and things to note is, as Liz mentioned, all the pricing is communicated as MSRP. All the drapery is lead weighted, free of additional charge, and then, as we mentioned, plastic lining is included in the price.
Yes.
So, Let's see. Surcharges. So these are your basic surcharges, as we mentioned. So your heading. Um, Drapery quick tips. So I guess one of the more important ones is, there's no deduction for length. Everything that you communicate to us for drapery needs to be hem to hem.
Yes. So it is going to be from the very top of the fabric to the very bottom of the fabric. The one thing is the grommet is measured from where the drape would hang on the top of the rod at the inner top of the grommet down to the floor. So there's a little bit of extra fabric on the grommet top that's the one instance where it's not hem to hem.
Exactly. After installing, again, just use light steam, and just to kind of relax, those wrinkles or any creases that may have occurred in transit. And then also the drapery, if you do need to clean this, it needs to be professionally dry cleaned with all the pairs together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have several other resources for you, for order entry and guides and so forth. So what you're seeing here, so this is a Roman shade order form, but this is also the same measure form that our installers use when they go out and measure for things. So, you can actually download this from our website, so texton.com/resources. And over on the right, it says Roman shade order and measure form. And so this is a great little worksheet to kind of go out to the client's home as you measure, just kind of walk through all of those options and build your order right there.
Yeah, and these worksheets that we're showing you really has all of the information and options that you need, and we tried to make it simple. So you just put an X or whatever in whatever box you want, and it really is kind of a no-brainer type of thing. It's like pick this, which one, this one or this one, so you don't forget anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So any of our measure and order sheets on our website are for your use as well. Our team uses it as our process to run our business. So we encourage that for you as well, just to kind of help make the process easier. So when it comes to, let's see, Candy asks, what motor is ionized rechargeable? Yeah, so all the battery operated motors, be it from our coulisses motion line with Highland Park to anything that you would do internally, anything that has a battery in it for internal motors at Texton is a lithium ion rechargeable. So again, it can go down. It can go almost a little over a year before I need to recharged.
Yeah, I've got some Roman shades in my house, and I use them every day. And gosh, I don't even think I have to charge them once a year. I mean, it may be once every 2 years or a year and a half. So it just charges like a cell phone.
Yep.
Very easy, and it charges pretty quick. I would say within a couple hours, maybe. So it's not an overnight, days type of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so drapery order form.
Yeah, and sometimes people get confused on drapery, but again, if you use this worksheet and submit this as an order, if you're going through customer service, it has all the information that customer service is going to need, or yourself, in order to order or even quote. The one thing I want to point out is under the returns, I think it says 3 inches specified in there. But in that little box, I always write what I want the return. If I want a 4-inch return, I put 4 inches in there, obviously. So it has everything that you need. Also note, there's a little note at the bottom right above the special instructions. It says width includes returns in overlaps. Yeah. So that is the main thing to remember on that.
Yeah. Candy has one more question. What is the difference in Motion and Zombie? So, two great brands, really. But I think that when it comes to, like, if you have a home that is, that is demanding a very high level home automation integration, So say like Crestron or Lutron, something like that. You can opt to have something motors put into a Highland Park Roman shade. Because it does tend to play nicer with some of those high level home automation functions. Motion is a very 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 nice brand of motors, and it's from Coolise, and it works just like a Volta does from a Rolls Acmeda, maybe in some ways better. They're all quiet, but I would say if you want the day-to-day ease of use, ease of install, easy to hand over limits and control of the shade after install, definitely look at or definitely include motion in your order. Yeah, it's a great product.
Yep.
So so we've got the Drapery order form. And again, we have a product and price guide on the site that is routinely updated. And then we communicate these updates every week in our weekly email. And so you'll see on the bottom right there on the picture, it says pricing guide. This price guide was first released in August of 2023. And so right now, as far as the information in this, the version number is 1.2.3. So that's the easiest way to find out your information there. Anyways, so we have about five more minutes of our allotted time. Want to make sure that you have all of your questions answered. So just kind of feel free to ask these questions in the chat window. We'll be live for about five more minutes, and then we will publish this recording to our YouTube channel. So yeah, exactly right. So.
And I just want to say that I am available to help you however I can to feel comfortable selling and ordering Roman shades and draperies. I've met some dealers out on measures and kind of walked it through with the homeowner. So the dealer feels a little bit more comfortable and kind of did a little bit more hand holding. The goal is to actually get you guys proficient in all of this, but there's always some unique circumstances that come up. But I'd love to see you out in the field and love to talk to you. So use me. I'm here.
And she's not afraid to travel too, right?
I'll travel.
Candy asked, do you have more photos like you provided earlier for us to show at with the clients? So the answer is yes.
Yes.
I can email a link to you. So maybe that's something that I put together as a follow-up piece for folks that attended the webinar. So Margaret asked, what is the price of the sample book and Roman shades? And the hand samples. Yeah, so that was my
the
mistake.
Good thing is it's all one product. Yeah. So you can do Roman shades and draperies. There's just a few that are only available as drapes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's any that are available only as Romans, but it's like one or two samples. And it will say in the price guide, looking at the fabrics, and it will also say on the back of the fabric if it's only available as a drape or a Roman shade.
Yeah. So the price for this book is $40 US dollars. It's fully rebatable. So once you purchase it, we ship you coupons up to $50 each that can be taken off a current invoice. And so it's essentially after you order these your shades for your clients, this book would be free, but the upfront cost or investment is $40 US dollars. So.
And let's see, somebody asked, in recognizing the market need for this product, what is the best selling point over using my local workroom? Can trim be added to drapery? Trim cannot be added to the drapery currently. So how do you sell this over a local workroom? If you have a homeowner that wants drapes, they don't know necessarily what they want. I would start off with this book. And if there's a fabric that they like, I would move forward with that. If the homeowner already has a fabric that they want to use or is looking for that particular one that this book doesn't have, then I would recommend going to a local workroom. There are some limits to the Highland Park in that, not every fabric can be done. And if they're wanting some different unique things, like if there's, wanting combine two fabrics on a drapery panel or on a Roman shade. That can't be done. A local workroom really can do anything.
Yeah.
We wanted it to make it a good program and a great price point and delivery and all of that. So I know this isn't going to fit the need for everybody out there, but it is going to be a large majority. I've been finding that a lot of dealers that have been successful with this, they don't really know draperies, but they're in there selling something, and the customer says, "Hey, can you do draperies as well?" And they're like, "Sure, give me a go." And so if you ever get into that place, show them the fabrics, get some measurements, and say, "I'm going to have my drapery expert follow up with you, and I could be your drapery expert."
Yeah, and Liz can work via your iPhone or whatever. So if you did want to have a FaceTime with her in the field, she does that all the time. And so maybe you're doing some field measurements or doing a consult with a homeowner, and she is a great asset for it. So yeah. All right, guys, it is 11:01 Central Time, so we're going to pause this webinar. So thank you all so much. Our next webinar coming up in January is going to be on a new product release called a natural shades. So as you have heard, we are kind of phasing out the Cambrai fabric Roman shades and coming out with a new collection. And so these are some beautiful fabrics. So in mid-January of next year. Hard to believe that's only 4 weeks away, right? We're going to have a webinar just like this, and getting you familiar with the product. So, any questions? Reach back on Texton Marketing at texton.com, and then also Liz Williams at texton.com. And happy to have you on, and we'll email out this link here shortly. All right, guys, thanks so much.
Bye bye.